Hello and welcome to this video where we go through version 1.6 of the process form PHP form handling script that we provide to you. I'm going to show you how you can go and configure it to send the results of your forms to your email. Now this is a pretty standard form here. How we've got it set up is basically you've got a couple input fields, an email address field, a drop-down list, and a message area. And this is typical for what you see in a form. And this is the HTML that is used to generate that form. Now you're going to see that every field has a name attribute, and this is really important for when sending and bundling up this information. Every field needs to have a name so that we can say, hey, the first name is Brandon, the second name, last name is whatever, or the email address. So it's really important to make sure you check your fields to make sure that they have the name attribute specified. Also, one of the most important things is that we have the action specified. So we're going to go through how to configure the form from step 1 all the way through, and by the end of it you'll have a completed process form handler all ready to roll. So what you need to do is download the processform.php script from our site. It will be version 1.6 or better. So if you have something newer, but it looks the same, more or less, you can continue along with these instructions. So what you're looking at here is the PHP code for the process_form.php. So that file, you need to go and download and save it into the root folder of your website. So if your landing page, your index page is in one folder, that's called the root folder, and you should place this file in the same folder. So what we're going to need to do is go through each one of these steps here. You might have noticed that this just changed here. I was noticing that as I'm going through here that some of the examples I've given here are not up to date. They are now. So step 1 is change the send to email variable from you at your domain to your own email address. So that's just down here. So you say send to email. So you can make it, Jim at, and then whatever. So I might use my own email address, something like admin@luckymarble.com. So that's the email that the form results are going to send to. The next step is change the send from email variable from your domain to your own domain. So it's really important that when you set this up, so say you've got this form on abc.com or xyz.com, you need to make sure that this email address that you have it sending up from is from that domain. Many email servers with what's called the send mail system in PHP will block any outgoing emails if it's not actually from the domain that you're sending it from. It's to prevent spam. It makes sense. Some may not have this setting set up, but I would recommend, so if this is abc.com is the domain where you're having this hosted, it's your website, that's your website domain name, then make sure you've got that set up. And also make sure that these two email addresses don't match. Okay, so don't send from one to another, because the internal email systems of some servers may detect that indeed no reply did not actually send it to itself. So make sure that they are separate. So if you're, you might have it something like this. So it's sending from this email address, and the results are going to the administrator. Okay. So in this situation, I would be sending it from And then, we can continue on with these steps here, but I'm just going to briefly go through this. Change the confirmation page. That's where the user is going to be sent to once they fill out the form. So you set it to, say, luckymarble.com/thank-you. I don't even know if I have a thank you page, but that's where it would send us. Maybe I'll just have it send us to luckymarble.com. Okay. And the next step, optional, change the email subject variable. So web form results, and you can change this if you like. There's also some advanced settings that I'll go into a little bit later, where you can have your standard boilerplate settings set up here, and then on a form-to-form basis, go and change that so that one might say contact form results and the next one might say, feedback form results. Step 5, make sure that the action attribute for your form tag in your web page points to this script. So it would look something like form method equals post, action equals process form. Now we really want to try to use the post method if we can. I'm not going to go into details about the difference between post and get, but it comes down to one is pass along in the query string arguments in your web browser, and there's a limit to the size. And post is submitted behind the scenes in a bunch of data, and there is usually, if there is any limit, it's pretty much unreachable. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this and we're going to go back to our form and make sure that we have method equals post and action equals process form. Make sure you don't duplicate the form tag by placing that example below an existing form tag. You can't have a form within a form. And make sure that the method isn't defined twice within this form tag and that the action is not defined twice. So we've got class, role, method, and action in this particular form, okay? We're going to save that, and it's publishing out to the server. All right, step 6, upload the script. Okay, we're going to do that. I'm going to save, and it uploads it. That's just how I have it set up in Dreamweaver here. And then the next is to submit a test submission from your form on the server. Now I know that it does work here, so I'm just going to move on to the next step here. And that's optional setup for reCAPTCHA. So what reCAPTCHA is a sort of a human verification system provided by Google. Google's branded their version reCAPTCHA, but CAPTCHA itself is an abbreviation, or I should say, I guess it's an acronym. But what it does is it verifies that there's a human being on the other end of the interface here, and you have to go and enter in either a series of numbers or letters, and usually the image that is displayed is skewed. Okay, and what reCAPTCHA does is it, I guess Google goes and does a bunch of scanning of different documents, and you can read up on how the system works, but basically they take a bunch of words or numbers, and you have to punch it in and hopefully match up what you're looking at there. And web bots that go and submit these forms and cause a bunch of spam have a real tough time in identifying this stuff. And so this is a way to prevent spam. I would recommend you use it. You don't have to, but I would recommend you use it. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go and grab, we've provided here this link, so you can go and grab a copy of the reCAPTCHA lib file, this file here, and then you place it in the same folder as this process form, okay? So that's the first thing that you need to do. You place it in the main folder and then upload it. And then the next thing you need to do is go to this URL and sign up for reCAPTCHA. It's absolutely free. You create a new site and you get yourself a private key and a public key. And it just allows for this script to run from your server, query the Google server, and then get a reCAPTCHA image. Okay, it is really easy. It takes you 5 minutes, if that. So what you do is you go get your key, so you go find your private key, and then down the step. Where do we go? 8C. Skipped right there. reCAPTCHA private key. Right here. So you go and copy your private key here. So this is what it would look like here. I'm just going to grab my private key. I'm just going to paste it here. Make sure there's no spaces on either side of it. Then we move up to step 8D. Open up the page with your form. Place the following code right here. We've provided to you here. Where your CAPTCHA challenge, where you want this to be displayed. We place that in the code, and then make sure you change the public key once we put it out there to what Google provides us for a public key. So again, we're going to go over here, and we're probably where are we going to put it? Probably think here. Place it right about there. And then we're going to go back to the Google site, grab ourselves our public key, and then we're going to place the public key right here. Okay. Make sure we don't have any spaces there. And then there's one other aspect, and we'll just show you where that is if you want to go and use it in the future. That's to style this, but we're going to save this, publish it up. We're also going to go and make sure we save and publish the process form.php. So we're going to go back here. That's step 8E is uploaded. A special note is that you can only run one CAPTCHA per page. So if you have 2 forms in one page, some of our templates do include 2 forms, such as one in the top menu and one within the middle of the page in the contact page. You're going to have to go with just one. So you're going to have to figure that out if you want to run a CAPTCHA. All right, so that's all there is to configuring. See this line here? Do not modify anything below this line. We really mean that. Don't touch anything below that line. These are the only things that you need to touch, okay? So let's go take a look at the form now as it is out on our website. All right, here it is. I'm just going to reload. Oh, look at that. I've got an error. That's really great. Well, looks like I forgot to place it here as well. So do make sure that you get it in both places. So we're saving that, and we're going to go back to our page. We're going to reload. Voila, there we go. There's the Google reCAPTCHA. So we're going to have to enter in this little code there. So that's all there is to setting up the form. So we're just going to run an example here. So we're going to go subject customer support. We're going to enter in message such as we're going to hit submit. Oh, we did not upload the proper reCAPTCHA lib file. Well, that's good. So we're just going to pause this while I go and upload that file. All right, I've uploaded it now. I'm just going to hit reload. And how about that? Not every demo is without errors. Okay, so what had happened here was that I had uploaded a reCAPTCHA lib from our server that had a bug in it. I've now re-uploaded the reCAPTCHA lib that's supposed to be there. We'll run it again. Aha! To use reCAPTCHA, you must get an API key from there. So it's telling us that our reCAPTCHA is not set up. So let's just go take a look at what we've done. So we'll go back. As it turns out, there was a bug in the form processor. Quickly resolved. We reload it once again. Again, it should work. Excellent. So this is what we have been expecting. The reCAPTCHA wasn't entered correctly. So if we hit the back arrow, we're going to see that our form submission is still here. It's because we hadn't filled out the CAPTCHA. We could do this again and it'd be like, hey, look, you didn't enter it correctly. So you could enter this incorrectly. We're not going to, but we're going to hit submit. And so boom, there it goes, and it submitted us to our confirmation page. So you're going to know that it works. First of all, you're going to get an email to the email address that you specified in where you're going to send the results to. Okay. And again, we'll just show you where that's at. Right here. The results are going to get sent there. Now you can send it to multiple email addresses by separating it with a comma. So we could send it to, Colin at Lucky Marble, or Christina. String it together with commas. Now, what if you have an existing form that had been hooked up with our server app system? And that server app system is being discontinued as of January 1st, as you probably are aware if you're using that system, and this is the replacement for it. What if you had a form you don't really want to worry about configuring much of that form, just a dead easy solution? Well, this will work for you. Okay, so what you do, and I'm just going to save this once more. We're going to go back to our process form test. Say this was hooked up to it was hooked up to that, right? That's basically how it would look in our old system. Well, all you got to do is make sure that you point it to the process form, and let's just go find. These are some example fields of what would be included within your form, and they would have been looking something like that, probably without the BR tags. Okay, and it would have been that you might have seen other fields such as authorization key or auth key, validation check. You can leave those in there. The validation check is another form of spam control, and the system does look at it as well. And the system will also ignore the authorization key because that's no longer required. But if you still have these fields in here, the system will read these email addresses. The system will use this confirmation page as your override. The system will use this as your mapping for the reply to email, and it will use this as the form subject. Now, I spoke about reply to email. So if you had a form like this and it gets sent to you and you want to hit the reply button and reply directly to the end user that sent that to you, well, here's the thing. It's a little tricky. How do we know what the person entered at any point was an email address? Well, you have to make sure that you have a field that is of type email. That means that browsers that observe the email input type, this is an input field, and that's the input type, will do some pre-validation, basically not allow the user to submit the form unless they have a valid email in there, right? Not all browsers observe this. Obviously, older versions of Internet Explorer, I'm pretty sure most versions of Firefox since I would say 2011, maybe 2010, observe this. So pretty much any version that people are running these days. Chrome has been observing it for a long, long time. Safari as well. I don't know about Opera, but we can go and check if you really need. But it will work for most modern browsers. And basically what happens is, and we should go take a look at this, okay? We're going to go reload this form. If I had put in something here like just random and hit submit, it's going to say, please enter an email address. Now this is part of the web browser itself that does that. There's no scripting by us to make this happen. This is part of the browser. So you have to enter a valid email address. And what we have done in our script, let's just go back there, right here, is that we're saying that the email from is from the field called your email. See how we have here, oh, it's not here. We're going to make sure that we need to map these. So the field name here is called email, so we need to make sure that this field name here, we can call this, customer email. And whatever that name attribute is, needs to match up here. Okay, so you can use this field here as well. And what will happen is when you hit reply on the email that you get from your form processor, it will, although the email will be coming from this email address, it'll look like it's coming from this email address. When you hit reply, it will be replying to whatever they've entered into this field, which is this field here. Okay, a little technical, as I said, but it does work. So if that is a requirement of your form, yes, you can go and set that up. In fact, probably recommend it. And that's pretty much what is all involved in setting up this form and all the different features. I would say that this is a great improvement over version 1.5. In fact, we will probably be adding just a couple more little features here. I think probably step 9, now that I think about it, that override, which is the email from. We'll probably be adding that in here shortly in the next version, where you can also add in the email from field, the reply to field, directly into one of these configuration settings here. Anyways, I hope you find that helpful, and good luck with your form, okay? You know, I paused that video just before hitting complete, and I realized I really should add that in there. I've added in a step 2B, which is the reply to field, which is the hard-coded version of the dynamic email from that we were just talking about, where we map this to whatever the customer is going to be entering in this field here. So 2B, I should say, and I'm just really making this improvement on the fly here, is called reply to field. And you could enter in customer email right there. Okay, so if you don't have those fields already within your form, and you don't need to have them in there, they're just sort of overrides, you could add the field name just as you see it here, and it would map to that particular field. Anyways, hope you find that helpful. I don't think I'm going to cram any more features in this version. All right, bye-bye.